I stalked your favorite season 7 Love Islanders, so you don't have to. So I have a few notes. Amaya Papaya was on Call Her Daddy podcast, and she had a lot to say. According to her, Alaska was taken because she went through a lot of shit. I love her little superlatives, and she's like, "What does that mean, superlative?" So essentially, Call Her Daddy just did a full breakdown of her start to finish on the island and her thought process throughout. Initially, she said she had her spark with Jeremiah, but because she wasn't sure, and Huda was Hurricane Huda at that time, and Huda called her a messy bit, she decided to just pivot and use her time elsewhere. And she said, "We be jogging, but not chasing for men." And that's what she said about Jeremiah after seeing her connection to seeing his connection to Huda. That's how she ended up talking a little bit more to Ace. And she said Ace kind of flipped the script on her, and that's when he started talking about boundaries and the babe. He made that a whole thing, but turned that whole villa upside down over the word babe. So she moved on from that. And then next she said she was open to exploring everybody and exploring the connections, but she realized early on that if you were open, but you said you were closed, you were acting like you were closed, they would penalize you and eliminate you. If you were acting closed, they wanted you to act closed. They wanted you to be closed. So that's why all of us were confused, why they were eliminating people who were getting closer, is because if they felt like you were getting closer to somebody but wasn't closing off, you need to go. Isn't that the whole Taylor experience, Austin's experience, Ace experience? The same people who voted Jeremiah with that logic didn't end up being exclusive to anybody until well into the final 2 episodes, so make it make sense. But neither here nor there. That was their logic for getting rid of Jeremiah, according to Amaya Papaya. That's what she said they told them. So she was there. Amaya was talking to Alex from Call Her Daddy, and they talked about standing on business challenge. She said that Zach, Austin, and Ace ganged up on her. Once Amaya entered the villa, she realized that people were being penalized for being coupled up. She decided to just move accordingly and slowly get to know different guys. So at that point, she got to know Austin, and she thought he was a nice guy. And half the things that he did in the stand on business challenge, she was so shocked in that moment when Austin started piling on her, Ace started piling on her, and then she said, "At least I have Zach." And then he started piling up on her. She said her eyes just like kind of dimmed, and she just disassociated from that moment. Like, and then she said her eyes were down, and then she just heard Brian, and he was just like, "Not today. This is what we do in my culture." And he stood up for her, and she said she just heard a voice, like, because she just heard all this piling on. She said when she looked up and she heard this voice, the person's voice was like actually in defense, and then she saw him face. It just kind of shift the whole game for her. She's like, okay, I felt so misunderstood, but somebody actually understands me, and she kind of just gave the message. And I think that is the overall message of this season: is that how she always said, if I'm not your cup of tea, you need to go find something else that you can drink. Because I'm summarizing, and she had a beautiful quote actually I have written here about what her dad said. She said that her dad told her that a strong, confident woman, especially one that's in touch with themselves, will intimidate the cowards. And I think that sums up her personality in a nutshell. And I also think that sums up Brian's personality in a nutshell. He was the only one who went against the boys and said, "That's what y'all like. I like her. I like all of that." And I think initially it was more like a let me protect my sister kind of thing, like my fellow Latino. And I think once that actually provided him the opportunity to get to know her. And once they got to know each other, they realized they had more in common than differences. They obviously both said they found each other attractive. They just never really crossed paths enough to really talk like that because she was getting caught up with the Zach situation. He was caught up in his connection with Adriana, and then eventually with Jayla, I think her name is. So they were just kind of ships crossing when their paths finally crossed, similar to the Nicolandria situation, but obviously not as dramatic because we shipped those two. But once their ships met at night, it was just like fireworks. Baby, you're a firework. We saw this beautiful love story unfold, and after that, she said she just let down her walls, and then every time she did something that would literally like make a boy feel like it was too much and she was overbearing, he would embrace it. She said the more he did that, and that was stuff even off the camera. the more and more she became closer and closer to him. And then Alex, she was doing really good. Call Her Daddy. I never really watched her interview, but I've heard her name everywhere, plastered everywhere. So it's fun to sit down and watch a full interview of her. She has a great interviewing style where she makes you feel really welcome and warm. And it was the perfect place for Amaya Papaya to have like her one-on-one interview. I think that was her first one-on-one interview that I've seen since they've been doing these media rounds. All in all, she said that once she realized that America loved her during that challenge, she said she was really upset because the boys were projecting onto her initially, putting her last. She was like, I think it was just a projection. And then to turn around and America had put her first, they were just so warming and validated her. And she said that was the message of this season. And that's why I'm so happy that Maya won. Because I think it teaches little girls and even boys just to be yourselves, to show up authentically, no matter what people think of you, how people judge you. There's always somebody who see you doing a good work. Somebody will always notice you. And at the end of the day, if you have confidence and love yourself and be your own best friend and know you're not perfect, I know I never said I was perfect. You will always come off on top. Because guess what? At the end of the day, if nobody else in the room loves you and you love you, somebody still loves you. You love yourself. And that was the message that I got overall from the Call Her Daddy podcast. And to me, it was a 10 out of 10 interview. Alex knocked it out the ballpark. If you guys are interested in watching it, it's on YouTube. That's where I watched the full interview. I will do another I watched a few podcasts today. So I'll go over Chris Vile Files. He was on that too. Chris was on Chris was on the Vile Foul, so I will go over that today. He talked a bit about Huda. I also watched Nicolandria on Extra, and I watched Adriana on Speedy's Live. If you guys don't know Speedy, he's here on TikTok, does weekly lives. He's been like kind of a Love Island guru lately, and he's also does Complex Magazine and so on and so forth. He has an extensive resume. So he interviewed Adriana, and I mean, it was a really quick, brief chat, but it was really nice. We got a nice side of her personality. So those are the next videos up. Stay around. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also follow me on YouTube where I'll be doing my weekly lives there until I get to 1,000 on here. Bye.